want to add, I think this is a really important and critical issue, and the ability to ask questions, any kind of question, and to feel safe asking those questions is a very precious part of our children's education. It's a necessary part of it. I have to say, at Shas, our local day school here in Sharon, goes to 6th grade, so it's an elementary school. But for the last 3 years, we've had an Ask the Rabbi session. I'm the rabbi. So it's on Friday mornings, and Rabbi Levitin Pryor and our present head of school, Dr. Wagner, both have encouraged this, and the teachers have encouraged it. So I get to sit with, it's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th grades. We go kind of round robin through the year. It's an Ask the Rabbi session. I do not know the questions before I sit down with the group. That's part of the deal. So there's a shock value to the questions, and it is one of the most beautiful and one of the most important things that I do in the week, I have to say, when we do it. The questions that come out are all over the place. So many have to do with trying to correlate Torah and science. It's a big issue for the children, and even from 3rd grade on. There are issues that have to do with personal practice. Some of them are even heartbreaking issues that come up. Sometimes you get a question like, is it worse to eat meat and milk or to eat out at a restaurant that's not kosher? So, okay, that tells me a lot of information, and it's an important question. And to handle that in a sensitive way is absolutely critical. Children, when you're dealing with a positive law system like Torah, when you're dealing with a system that it really is all of a piece, doubt and questions are a natural part of every individual's coming to terms with the tradition. If we're defensive and afraid of this, we are not allowing our children to grow. We're not allowing ourselves to grow. You have to be able to work through your questions when you're dealing with a system that is tradition-based. You can't be afraid of these questions. And the questions will lead you to, they often lead me to important places, so I have to say that. The teacher has to be open and even vulnerable to the impact of the questions. And just from what I've learned over the years we've been doing this is, I don't have to have an answer all the time. I don't have to even have the right answer. But the child has to feel that she or he has been heard. And that it's been safe to ask this question, even if I don't have the answer. And that to create an environment like that is, I think, part of what the responsibility of a school. It's the responsibility of a real Torah institution. So for me, it's a critical issue. We move on now to some thematic questions. This is a kind of a broad issue. Yeshiva University has put into play the curriculum concept of Torah Umada, learning Torah and learning Mada as understood as science, could be secular knowledge, you want to call it that. It's an interesting term in itself. This notion of integrating these two aspects of Torah life as characteristic of the modern Orthodox approach to education. So this double-tracked curriculum has worked for a while, but the question is, does this duality itself generate a failure of integration right from the start? If we separate Torah and Mada, haven't we already lost in a certain sense? Is there anything that's not, any aspect of knowledge that shouldn't be within the concept of Torah? So how do you handle science and Torah, especially cosmology, paleontology, evolution, and correlating that with Bereshis and with a Torah view of cosmology? Is there a place for discussions of hashkafa and philosophy and God in the modern Orthodox day school? How do we bring in art in the day school, including literature and theater arts and graphic arts and music? Is Torah and Mada an adequate vehicle for this, or perhaps do we need some other model in our postmodern period for something more fully integrated? It's a big question.
I don't imagine the person who asked the question expected us to answer how we explain paleontology and cosmology and Sefer Bereshit this evening in the next half hour that we have. I think the first thing that I'd like to say is that very often once you say Torah something, once you say that it's Torah and something else, so people have the sense that we're diminishing from Torah, and that the community that puts Torah Umada on its banner, by definition, isn't quite as committed to Torah as perhaps other communities that are Torah-only communities. And I'd like to say that certainly from my perspective, that it's very disturbing to think that. I think I'm not sure that once you say Torah Umada, automatically you're saying that it's Torah and something else. Certainly the sense I have is that the Mada, defined as both science as well as those things that dovetail with Torah, become essentially part of Torah. I still remember when I was a student at Yeshiva University and I was taking a biology lab course, and they handed me a fetal pig and I opened it up and I was blown away. It was one of the most religious experiences I can remember having in all of my years at Yeshiva University, which might say something about Yeshiva University, but but seriously, it was. And the idea that all of the years that I was learning Torah helped direct that particular experience of opening up the fetal pig so that I saw it as a religious experience, I found to be a very, very moving moment in my life. As far as education is concerned, I think this goes back to issues we've already discussed this evening with regard to role models. I think that you have to find people who themselves embody these values, not as two distinct elements of their lives, but in fact who see these things as working together. Yisrael Oman, who recently won the Nobel Prize, how long ago? A year or two ago, lives in Yerushalayim, came to speak 5 years ago, came to speak at my son's high school after he received the Nobel Prize, and I was interested. My son came home from school. I said, so what did he talk about? And he said, he said that his math studies have absolutely nothing to do with the religious part, with who he is as a religious person. So that we can all be very proud of him that when he went to receive the Nobel Prize, he made sure it didn't happen on Shabbat and whatnot, but he sees that as being totally separate. I wouldn't hire him in my school. I think that, in fact, as far as if we value Torah Umada, that means finding ways to make clear that God's creation, and certainly if you learn the Rambam in several places where he puts the basics of understanding God in order to reach a level of Yidi'at Hashem, Yirat Hashem, Ahavat Hashem, loving God, knowing God, understanding God, that comes only through the study of what the Rambam saw as being the natural sciences. The Rambam says about humanities in a number of places as well. And I think that it becomes important to find the appropriate people. As Rabbi Clapper said, you're not going to find one person or two people who are going to be able to cover everything. But among your faculty, it becomes important to have some people who can embody those particular values as one.